Welcome to San Francisco News, Black News. I'm Diane Wesley Smith. Thank you for joining us. Well, this is part three of our series honoring the Black Panthers. I'm only going to part three because there's a lot of pressing issues affecting the Black community in San Francisco that we need to get to. The Black community is connected with all communities in San Francisco, but our needs are different. Our needs are extenuating, so that's why if we don't do it and show love for ourselves and help ourselves and address our own issues, we certainly can't expect anyone else to help us. And that's how we honor the Black Panthers, because the Black Panthers it's reminiscent of when James Brown said, "I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door and I'll get it myself." So that was the origin of the Black Panthers. But even further, what was the motivation of the Black Panthers was because because Black people were denied the right of self determination in the San Francisco Bay Area, still in the United States at large, and in San Francisco in particular. But at that time, we're going to talk about Oakland because that's where the Panthers were. So they wanted the right to self determination. They were called the Black Panthers, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And it all started from out of the need to defend Black people against police brutality. So, we were wondering, those of us on the outside or that were a little young then, were wondering about why the police brutality. What kind of officers are these that are committing such heinous acts and getting away with it? Then later we find out that so the Panthers finally had enough. They started, and their goal was just self-defense, to patrol Black neighborhoods and protect Black Americans from police brutality. So what they did is it was founded, the Black Panthers, as I've said before, they were founded in Oakland in 1966. And the Black Panther Party's original purpose was to patrol the Black neighborhoods and to protect residents from police brutality. Okay. Others have never known police. Well, unfortunately, some have, particularly brown people that are brown brothers and sisters. But Malcolm X's assassination on February 21st, in 1965, devastated Black Americans. And his legacy, because Malcolm X preached self-determination, self-knowledge, self-love. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale were motivated. They were like activated, and they proposed to carry on his ideas. And they founded the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Later, they shortened it to the Black Panther Party. As with most cities in the Bay Area and residential areas, there was a lot of segregation. And the officers who, in the Black communities, the officers came through with committed a lot of police brutality. The residents were defenseless, and the officers were recruited from police departments in the South. Kind of makes sense, it comes together. We have to look at the entire picture. It wasn't about the Black Panthers carrying weapons. Huey's there, and God rest his soul for his courage. Huey's there with a weapon. At that time, the law allowed us to carry weapons to defend ourselves, and the police were not going to come through the neighborhood and brutalize with their Southern racist tactics. It was unfortunate that officers for the San Francisco Bay Area were recruited out of the South, out of the dirty pieces of the South. They recruited dirty-minded officers that were racist, because racist equals dirt, degradation, and low-level thinking, not to mention ignorance, lack of education, etc., etc. So that explains the police brutality in Oakland. the Black Panthers, these were young black men, and they said, we're not going to have it. There's a movement in San Francisco I'm so proud of. The young people are activated. It's the same as, it's reminiscent of when I was young and younger, no, young, and we did something about what we did not like. And we did, and so this is the era that I come from. This is the era of the Black Panthers, and I see it activated again. We see it, young people across the land, across the globe, are standing up for a better way. It's so invigorating. Glasses. So, the Black Panthers very simply just demanded the power to control our own communities and culturally transform the old order. Okay, that would have prevented gentrification. Gentrification, we're going to talk about that in our next series, be about the black communities exodus. They call it an exodus, but they pushed out of San Francisco. How it happened, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, and I will share that with you, because when you don't know, you can't do anything about it. And if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. The level of gentrification in San Francisco has happened because each group that was in power did not heed the warnings of the past. So you have groups of people that are in power in San Francisco, yet in the black community, representing the black community, yet the numbers are dwindling. So we have a Facebook page that we just started. It's called San Francisco Panthers for Elders' Rights, because we're not going to be left behind. So that's another segment as well. All on we demand, we elders in San Francisco, or native San Franciscans, demand the right to determine our destiny as well. We demand the right to have the city reflect our culture, the black culture. So it's a combination of the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. At bottom line, we as American citizens have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's it. That's all. And that's what we will have. So we can't stop being until we black Americans have the right to determine our own destiny. Has nothing to do with anyone else. It does not take rights away from anyone else. The Panthers never desired to take rights from anyone else. One of the things that was unique about the Panthers is that they partnered with white groups, liberal white groups, and there was a place for, we call good white folk, as we call them back in the day. So there's a place for everyone. There's a place for everyone at the table. This is Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando had such a sense of consciousness, social consciousness. This was at the funeral of Fred Hampton, who was murdered. We talked about that, how the police murdered him in his bed, and within about 10 minutes there were 900 rounds fired. So, the Black Panther organization, it grew from an Oakland-based organization into an international organization. There were chapters in 48 states in North America, and there was support groups in Japan, China, France, England, Germany, Sweden, Mozambique, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Uruguay, and elsewhere. At its peak, its membership exceeded 2,000 people. And we're in several major cities. Now, despite the passage of the Civil Rights Bill, which was passed in 1966, but it was passed in the 60s, that legislation followed the landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling of Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954. Black Americans living in cities throughout North America continued to suffer economic and social inequity. The Panthers just were not going to just continue to accept the social and economic inequities. And I'm proud to say that we have an organization founded by Miss Felicia Jones, and it's called Black Wealth and Disparities. Keep your eyes open on black wealth and disparities. It says it all. It addresses specifically across the board. There's black disparities when it comes to wealth and health and economic opportunity. You list it, you name it, there's a disparity for us. We must level the playing field. That was the attempt of the Black Panthers. Poverty and reduced public services characterize these urban centers. Poverty still. Where residents were subject to poor living conditions, joblessness, chronic health problems. Let's talk, Bayview Hunters Point. Chronic health problems. We're still burying people who couldn't even survive corona because they grew up in Hunters Point and were subjected to the contamination and pollution from the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, which was left contaminated, signed off on, and told to us that it was safe. Big money can infiltrate health departments and tell us one thing, and it is not necessarily the truth. Imagine that. Let me just say, the only reason that we believe in the COVID injections, the COVID vaccination, is because everyone's in line and all different colors are in line. There's no separate line. Like the Tuskegee Institute, if there was a separate line for a certain zip code or a certain line, then I would be very much against it. But I'm very happy to say today is my husband and my husband and myself. We're fully vaccinated 2 weeks after our second vaccination. And I thank God for the vaccination. And I hope that everyone gets vaccinated because they're not injecting part of the virus. So this health problems, violence, and unlimited means to change their circumstances. So let me say it very plainly. Black people suffer from poverty, lack of opportunity, with high joblessness, chronic health problems, violence. They just love blacks killing blacks. And limited means to change our circumstances. Right now, fortunately, we're going to do better. We're not going to accept less. We must change our circumstances ourselves. We must have profit-making entities because it's about money, folks, and it's about the land. And you can't get that. If there's a nonprofit that can help with that, then right on, we need you. But if you can't help us if you can't help black people determine their own destiny, then we need others that will. We must have people that would allow us to determine our own destiny. It's long overdue. It's time. These conditions contributed to the riots of the 60s. That's what contributed to the Watts riots, among others. And the increased use of police violence as a measure to impose order throughout America. A number of positions outlined in the 10-point program by the Black Panther Party address the principal stance of the Black Panther Party. And that is economic exploitation is at the root of all oppression in the United States and abroad of black people. And the abolition of capitalism is a precondition of social justice. Let me just interject. Sounds good, but there won't be any abolition of capitalism. It's because we can be idealistic, but we must also be realistic. In the 1960s, this socialist economic outlook was formed by the Marxist Party. But let me just go a step further. As a black American whose ancestors were stolen from Africa or sold from Africa, but were slaves in this country, worked without pay, indentured servants, we want to work for hours. We work for hours. We don't want money coming in the mail unless we're retired in this pension. But we work for hours. We don't want handouts. We want the right to determine our own destiny. That starts with economic opportunities, not handouts, not programs that only employ for a short period of time without a bridge into corporate. We must get into corporate positions, boards. So the FBI, therefore, even as the Black Panther Party found allies both within and beyond the borders of North America, the organization also found itself squarely in the crosshairs of J. Edgar Hoover of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and its counterintelligence program called COINTELPRO. In fact, in 1969, the FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover considered the Black Panther Party the greatest threat to national security. He issued a memorandum outlining the goals. Greatest threat to national security because there were black people that who demand to determine demand the right to self-determination. They don't need slave masters. They don't need white people telling us what to do. And the good whites, you can join us and help us. Because I know a lot of, we all know a lot of good people of all races. So this was J. Edgar Hoover's goal. One, he said, in a memorandum outlining the FBI's goals, prevent the coalition of black groups. In unity, there is strength. Black groups that's one of the reasons they pay certain blacks in San Francisco certain amounts of money, large salaries, to keep them doing what they would have done and keep you from determining whether you can purchase a home here, whether or not you want to purchase a home, then how will you do it? The economic development, the civil service jobs. This is why these things have been denied you for so long. Anything that's done now is really, we can never catch up. The train has left the station. So this is why this host, is always suspect when I see recycled black leaders who have been leading us on out of San Francisco. As J. Edgar Hoover said, because we know there's strength in unity. J. Edgar Hoover, we don't need him to validate that. But when the head of the FBI says that there's strength, that there's unity, in unity there is strength, that shows there's a threat. So he further went on to say in his memorandum, black groups might be the first step toward a real Mau Mau. That was the black group of Kenyans who organized to fight white colonial rule. So the Mau Mau is the get down, unified blacks to determine their own rule. Number 2 on Jagger's list of goals against the Black Panthers is 2. And all blacks, this is ongoing, folks. Prevent the rise of a black messiah who would unify and electrify the movement. King did it, killed him. Malcolm X did it, killed him. Fred Hampton of Black Panthers, killed him. Then they sent the drugs. The drugs, as Maxine Waters out of Los Angeles stated, the drugs decimated us. They were sent to us and they decimated us. You don't need to see me. I need you to see that picture. That is H. Rap Brown. H. Rap Brown. He was H. Rap Brown. He was very eloquent, an eloquent speaker, very committed to the cause. And he is one of hundreds of Black Panthers, many Black Panthers, who have been given hundreds of years of prison terms so that they will never see the light of day, so that they will never have the ability to come and share with you and I the power of the mind. The struggle this time, the revolution this time must be here. It must be here. The armed struggle is here and in our hearts. There must be. This show is Huey in China. And you've seen the picture of, as I mentioned before, my husband Samuel and brothers from Chinatown and brothers from the mission. Or my husband Lieutenant Samuel went to Chinatown and asked for help. and he went to the mission and asked for help. We always help each other when the other is down. That's the San Francisco Bay Area way. And we were he's out of San Francisco, and that's a picture of them on the steps of the Alameda County Jail. So remember, we fight because as a Black Panther, we fight because Black Panthers, and call ourselves Black Panthers. And I am one of the San Francisco Panthers, because we have been cornered. I'm going to tell you, people my age are being left behind. So we are the San Francisco Panthers, modeled and inspired by the Black Panthers, because we have been pressured and moved into a corner. We baby boomers have been pressured and moved into a corner. So we must come out fighting. Just like the Panthers, 55 on up, we must come out fighting, because there's no one looking out for us. And I'm not mad at them. If it isn't in their heart to honor and respect and also ensure that we elders are taken care of, then we'll help them. Because we will not be ignored. We will not be denied. They are on our shoulders. There's nothing new under the sun. And I was so glad to hear someone echo my sentiments from the last show, which is the Panthers have shown us the way. The only difference is there will be no weapons, and the revolution will not be televised, because it's going to happen in our minds, in our souls, in our spirits, and it will be through action. It will not be through press conferences. Well, I'm not sure. We better leave that wide open. I don't know what God has planned. What I do know is I know the history of San Francisco. I know how we became gentrified. I know about the Black Panthers. And I know that we need the same spirit. And we Black people need unity. I don't care where you are, what your position is. Because if you get in trouble, you're going to need us. So keep it real. Keep love for your people, because you never know. Plus, let's just do the right thing. So we're going to end this with, there were, as I mentioned, let me show you. They've given, this is formerly Rap Brown. He is now Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, Muslim. He was known in the 1960s as H. Rap Brown. Do I have a picture? I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of him in his imam clothes. But the point is, before I finish that, let me just show you. This is where the Black Panthers led a lot of us. And that is to understand the need for a breakfast program. So that's the Black Panthers breakfast program. They understood that children were not functioning well in school because they were hungry. So they started a breakfast program. It's nothing, if you have never experienced hunger, it's indescribable. I cannot describe it to you. If you've ever experienced it, then you know what it is. Let me just say it's a crime for anyone to go hungry in San Francisco. Any child to be hungry in the United States. For anyone to go hungry in this country that has so much. And that's all the Panthers want to do, is take care of their own people. Every race is allowed to take care of their own people. But seems to be a problem when it comes to us. We can't help it that God created us the way he did and made us of his finest black. We cannot help that. So, Brother Al-Amin, who was H. Rap Brown, Minister of Justice for the Black Panther Party, was found guilty on March 9th of murdering Sheriff Deputy Ricky Kitchen in Fulton County. A Georgia jury convicted Alameen of all 13 charges against him in connection with a shootout. Alameen, 75, was a former leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Now, let me say to you, when they arrested Imam Alameen in 1995, he was accused of aggravated assault after an Atlanta man claimed he shot him. The charges were later dropped when the man recanted his statement and said he had been pressured by authorities to identify Alameen as the shooters. Police have tried very hard to make strong black men criminals, especially if, as J. Edgar Hoover said, if they speak eloquently, they would unify and electrify black people. The actual shooter confessed to the killing and has been completely ignored. During the interview with Imam Alameen, former H. Rap Brown, this is what he said. The FBI has a file on me containing 44,000 documents, but prior to this incident, their investigation had produced no fruits, no indictments, and no arrests. At some point, they had to make something happen to justify all the investigations and all the money they've spent. So they put Alameen under a gag order. The most powerful men of our times that are alive or underground in prisons, and we don't know where they are, but this is a fact. Well, actually, there are people that know where they are. They will never see the light of day because of their commitment to black people, because they stood up as black men. So all power to the people. Thank you for feeding our children. Let us continue to feed our children. All power to all people. Another fallen warrior, Fred Hampton. He had the ability to unify and electrify. So they came into his house and murdered him. The FBI did. Remember, if you see something, say something. If you feel something, do something. Remember, we all have responsibility to each other. Black people, we must unite. Let's stop these little small petty squabbles. Let's put out the murderers from amongst us. If a person kills another black person, we want them out. We want them arrested, and we want them sentenced to death. Okay? Let's just say it plain. If you know about know of someone being murdered, you have to say something. All this snitches get stitches, that's some bullshit. You understand? Because we must save ourselves. That's our responsibility. Then we are more qualified to help others. I want to say congratulations to everyone who is watching this program, because you're watching this program because you want better. You want to do better. You want to see something happen that is right. Sisters down for the get down. Brothers down for the good down. Good white folks. We must all unite. In one way or another, we're all a Panther. Now, if you're comfortable where you are, if you feel that black people have too much, if you feel that, if you don't feel that black people, if you feel black people have been treated fairly, I commend your ignorance. If you feel that black people are not entitled to reparations after hundreds of years, over 400 years, 5 now, and pushing, of their children being murdered, black men shot on sight, babies taken from their mothers, women sterilized, the years of free labor If you don't understand, when you see a black person who looks like he has lost his mind, he probably has. The chains of slavery are strong, folks. Let's break them. Let's break them. Okay? Black sisters, stop hating on each other. Black brothers, stop hating on each other. We are all fine. We are all divine. Let's get it together so we can move on. Stop the black exodus. And I want to thank you, everyone who has been motivated by what we share here. I've heard it echoed, and yes, we have been shown the way. Each and every one of us has a responsibility to make this world a better place. Please educate your children about Black history. And I particularly my Asians and my white brothers and sisters, please educate your children about Black history. We must eradicate this ignorance. We must eradicate this hatefulness. Let's bring love back. Let's love each other. And if we can't love each other, we damn sure better respect each other. New times are coming, better times are coming. Be a part of the solution. I invite you. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Then we got to talk about the gentrification of San Francisco. By then we'll, because we always like to give people a heads up. So we can talk about what the problem is and what's being done to solve it. Because we all know the problems. Let's get on down to the solutions. When you get a chance, please Google the Black Panthers 10-point program. Please also educate yourself about police brutality and what you should do. If you're a black person, what should you do when the police stop you? There's good ones and bad ones. Fortunately, I know we're not recruiting out of Mississippi and Alabama anymore. I would like to think. But I don't know. After what I saw in Washington on March the 6th. So, was it March the 6th? Well, nevertheless, February. Well, we saw the atrocity. We saw the treasonous activities in Washington. After seeing that, I'm not so sure. However, we are going to do better. All together in unity, we are going to do better. Respect and love one another. Thank you for joining us. I'm Diane Wesley Smith, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.